because Russia's price for peace is Ukraine's capitulation, Ukraine's territory, and Ukraine's children.
Now, this could be the most important election in history. Both sides agree on that, at least. Each side considers their opponent to be, in a sense, a democracy-ending force or a republic-ending force, depending, I suppose, on their particular perspective. Isn't it interesting, though, to see Zelensky trotted out, pen in hand, signing missiles? Isn't it odd to accept the reframing of Joe Biden, still President of the United States, as a sort of inept, avuncular, roaming figure trotted out to give speeches, propagate for war? Isn't this a very, very confusing time of campaigning? Here is Biden now at the UN with Zelensky advocating for yet more war, the consequences of which, God, it seems to me sometimes likely he will benefit from in some tangential, possibly financial ways. Not an assertion I'm making, it's just the kind of thing that would make sense to me based on what I know about how that world works. In front of Zelensky, a war that doesn't cost him anything, but costs many people their lives and costs all of us that live in countries like ours a great deal of revenue. Let's have a look.
For the second year in a row, this gathering, dedicated to peaceful resolution of conflicts, is darkened by the shadow of war. An illegal war of conquest brought without provocation by Russia against its neighbor Ukraine. Like every nation in the world, the United States wants this war to end. No nation wants this war to end more than Ukraine. And we strongly support Ukraine in its efforts to bring about a diplomatic resolution that delivers just and lasting peace. But Russia alone bears responsibility for this war. Russia alone has the power to end this war immediately. And it's Russia alone that stands in the way of peace.
Firstly, if the aim was to end that war as quickly as possible, what you could do, I suppose, is stop funding further armament, stop giving Zelensky tours of munitions factories and allowing him to sign weapons that will eventually end the lives of innocent civilians, some of whom will inevitably be children. Bring them back to the negotiating table, not have Boris Johnson come and disrupt that process as he did prior to the start of real hostility, not bomb territory within Russia, not sponsor the 2014 Maidan coup, not sponsor the Azov battalion, and sit down all participants and negotiate an amenable peace. I know international diplomacy between countries like Ukraine and Russia is hardly easy, but I reckon it would be a lot easier if you didn't get the strong sense that the military-industrial complex benefit from ongoing conflicts. This we know from Afghanistan. It cost $14 trillion. It didn't really benefit anyone, did it? It certainly left, well, maybe the Taliban. They're a lot better armed than they were before the start of that conflict. What we're able to do now, because of men like Julian Assange, because of information available to us online, is immediately gainsay this kind of ludicrous hyperbole and sort of muted jingoism that you can get access to at a UN event broadcast on CNN, and present some alternative facts. Because of men like John Mearsheimer and Jeffrey Sachs, we have an alternative history of how the Russia and Ukraine conflict has escalated. And because perhaps, you tell me, let me know in the comments and the chat, because we're beginning to understand what is meant when you see the celebritification of a figure like Zelensky, have him turning up in award shows, turning up, signing missiles and bombs. You start to understand the tone-deaf amplification of information that's favourable to their agenda being pushed everywhere, oppositional information being shut down, and you have to recognise that nothing they say is true. Everything is worthy of question. And remember, earlier in the show, you've seen another advocacy for globalism saying that the First Amendment is a potential problem. Free speech is a problem. You can't just have limitless free speech. Then people might go around opposing wars and opposing globalist projects. Aren't you now, let me know in the comments and chat, beginning to understand from the outline, from the silhouette of their corruption, what the figure in the dark might resemble?
Because Russia's price for peace is Ukraine's capitulation, Ukraine's territory, and Ukraine's children.
Ukraine's children was a specification. I mean, they said, well, can we have some Ukrainian children? That's the kind of language that's designed to tug on the old heartstrings and to ensure that the fishing line of the taxpayer dollars can continue to be reeled in.
Russia believes that the world will grow weary and allow it to brutalize Ukraine without consequence. But I ask you this. If we abandon the core principles of the United States to appease an aggressor, can any member state in this body feel confident that they are protected?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think the image many of us have who understand the relationship between Ukraine and, for example, BlackRock is indeed of a carving up. What we're talking about is who is it that has the right to carve up the resources in Ukraine? Who is it that had a curious relationship with Ukrainian energy companies before the start of this conflict? Who is it that benefits from having missile bases and CIA bases right on the doorstep of the former Soviet Union in direct transgression and denial of treaties, if not treaties, agreements between Gorbachev and Reagan? What exactly is this we're watching when you see Joe Biden, a deposed president, advocating for further war, telling you that he's advocating for further peace in front of a president that's being propped up, a former showbiz star, comedian and entertainer and literal penicist, there must be some sort of pun available to us there, and inviting us to glug it all down, swallow it all down with a smile. Think about the trajectory of this conflict. The Nord Stream pipeline, Russia did it. Oh no, it was obviously some combination of deep state forces from NATO nations. We can't continue to bring you this beautiful content without the support of our partners. Hartford Gold. Always believe in your soul. You're indestructible. And the world feels insecure and uncertain, doesn't it? With rising prices, crazy debts. For those who are in the United States, thank God there's a way to secure your hard-earned nest egg. Protect that nest egg. Protect it at all costs. Place it beneath a buttock. Do something sensible. American Hartford Gold makes it easy to protect your savings and retirement accounts with physical gold and silver. Yeah, like in the old days, baby. In one phone call, have physical gold and silver delivered to your door or put inside a qualifying retirement account like your IRA. American Hartford Gold has an A+ rating from the BBB and thousands of satisfied clients. Right now, they will give you up to $15,000 of free silver on your first qualifying order. I want me some of this sweet silver. This offer, though, is only for US customers. Call 866-505-8315 or text BRAND, my name, to 98899. That's 866-505-8315 or text BRAND to 98899. Get up to $15,000 of silver and protect your future in this crazy world with solid precious metals, literally made in stars. Do you remember for a minute they tried to convince us that Poland had been bombed? Do you know that they're still now? Kamala Harris, in her recent DNC conference speech, said, oh, well, if we don't stop Putin, Poland will be next. Think about the amount of jingoism and hostile, incendiary invective that's being conveyed by these apparently rational people. Do you not start to believe that it's just power for power's sake, that what they actually want is a kind of totalitarian control accompanied by thanks and applause and we appreciate you helping us, this was all for the children, a kind of reductivism of moral arguments around good and evil, i.e. Putin's evil, we're good, that denies the complexity and contradictions of our own eyes. If you've been paying attention to what's been going on in the last few years, you will recognise that what Joe Biden is a stooge and a cipher of globalist power, and he's about to be replaced by another one in Kamala Harris. There are people in our space that would say that both parties offer up ciphers as political and presidential candidates, but it seems to me, just based on the loathing, ire and attempts to control, even talking about the Trump campaign, not to mention the recent alliance with the likes of Tulsi Gabbard and Bobby Kennedy, that in the MAGA movement you have, if not a perfect movement, a flawed movement, a nationalist movement, you have a disruption and an obstacle to the kind of globalist power that they're trying to achieve. You only have to see that round table at Michigan to recognize that Ordinary people don't care about their talking points anymore. Ordinary people care about their own lives. Ordinary people are sick and tired of this endless hyperbole, and they're sick and tired of funding wars while they're going hungry.
If you allow Ukraine to be carved up, is the independence of any nation secure? I'd respectfully suggest the answer is no. We have to stand up to this naked aggression today and deter other would-be aggressors tomorrow. That's why the United States, together with our allies and partners around the world, will continue to stand with the brave people of Ukraine as they defend their sovereignty and territorial integrity and their freedom.
In the figure of Joe Biden and in the spectacle of Vladimir Zelensky, you have the perfect pairing that helps us to understand the nature of geopolitics and globalism these days. A celebrity turned leader, a lifelong politician who appears to have some hypocritical and corrupt relationships with international businesses and interests, who's willing to say what's required in order to achieve what's necessary. Putting a show on the road, even though one has been ousted as president and replaced by a younger model who's similarly compliant, pliable, malleable, and useful to the establishment interests that require, as a business model, ongoing war. A system to whom the signing of a missile that will likely one day kill children is not a visual anomaly and a jarring reminder that we've gotten way off track as a species, that we've departed from God, but just a necessary and helpful photo opportunity. Just another part of the spectacle. It would seem to me that we're at a significant junction now. There is a significant opportunity to disrupt the kind of interests that benefit from war. And I wonder if in November that opportunity will be taken. Certainly, I'm doing my own small part, and I'm hardly what you would call a regular Trump supporter, or even perhaps a Trump supporter of any kind, just an opponent of globalism. That's why I'll be participating in this Rescue the West event. Join me there if you can, and if you're an awakened wonder, we will be providing the opportunity for a little meet and greet among us. Consider becoming one now. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.